Hey everybody, how are you doing? This is the initial setup, but considering everything going on and so many of you are not being able to go to restaurants and buy food, and you have a whole bunch of food in your house and you don't know what to do with it because you just went prep shopping and just grabbed stuff and don't know what to do with it. So I'm going to walk you through a meal a day and what you can do. This is just being recorded from my kitchen. You might hear dogs barking, you might hear kids arguing. I don't know what it is, but we're going to share it with you, and I'll do it in blocks. Tonight we are making a vegetable lasagna. So first thing, in case you haven't heard for the past 2 months, wash your hands before you start cooking. You can probably see over there, one thing I like to do is have all of my ingredients already sitting out and sitting on the counter so that I know what it is that I am using. So we're going to get our marinara sauce going first. What we've got is 1 onion, 3 cloves of garlic, 2 carrots, depends on the size, so you do the math, but that's 2 carrots there. 2 cans of it. You could use pureed tomatoes. I like to use diced tomatoes because I don't like tomatoes, so I can kind of flick them out of the way so it's a little easier. You could either use like 1 large can, 23, 28 ounces. Based on where we're at today, this might not normally be the brand of tomatoes I would use, but hey, that's what the grocery store had. These are both, so 2 cans of 14 and a half. I don't have any sprigs of thyme or oregano, so we're just using Italian seasoning because that's what's available to me today. You will need some red wine. I grabbed this. Again, this is what was available to me, whatever red wine you like, and you can go with that. So first thing, hopefully you can see everything here. We're just going to cut the onion up. For some of you, this might be a brand new adventure. I do this regularly, so for some reason the onion juice doesn't make me cry, but it might make you cry. My oldest daughter, when she cuts onions, wears swimming goggles. She's probably hating me right now for mentioning that. But we're gonna just do this, and this is gonna be a way that, even though we can't be together, whoever it is that's watching this, this is a little bit of community, and that's what we're doing. So, first thing we'll do is we'll just chop this up however you want to. I cut it up in half, slice it, make a whole bunch of little, nice little portions so that once it starts cooking, they'll be small, they're not big chunks. So, see a part that you don't like, just flick that out. So we'll just cut up the onion and get that going. I thought, sometimes cooking shows, they already have everything pre-done, and sometimes people look at that and no judgment, but think, I don't even know how to cut an onion up. So that's why I'm going to go through this and kind of show you how I prepare food, and I do this every day for my family. I love it. It's like my moment of zen. So now I'm bringing my zen to you. Okay, so the garlic. So we're going to mince these so it's still in its shell. So you want to peel the outer thing off, the outer skin off. I usually just squeeze it, kind of like you would a peanut or a peanut shell, and it'll pop open. Just take off the skin. You don't want the skin in there. That would taste gross. Somehow the talking part. So there's 1. So we get 2. I did want to point out the wine that's here. So if you're the chef in the family, you do all the cooking. Usually my motto is 1, that's not a good piece of garlic, I don't want that one. 1 serving for the dish, 2 servings for the cook. So I always cut off the little butt end on here so you can see that. I always cut that little part off. It's just hard. I don't know if it's necessary, but I always cut it off. Okay, so then the garlic, we're going to put your blade on top of it and just push down and squish it. Do that for all 3 of them. Push down and squish it. That busts open the juices, gets everything flowing for the garlic oils and the flavors that are in there. And then just mince it up and cut it up. I don't really go for teeny tiny pieces. As it's cooking, they're gonna do what they're gonna do, but just for the flavoring. But try not to have any big chunks. You don't want to shock the heck out of your family when they're eating dinner and they bite into a half of a piece of garlic. That would just be gross and wrong. Here we have a yellow squash, yellow squash. I already cut that one up. Carrots. So here's how I do carrots. Just cut off the tops. I don't even worry about washing them. Cut off the bottom here. I know that people use, carrot peelers and all that sort of fancy stuff. I think it's a waste of time because all you're doing is taking off the top little layer. So I just run the knife blade across the carrot and just peel it. That way it gets off just enough of the outer skin, but you don't have to waste a whole bunch of it using a potato peeler. I think that's a waste of good natural product. So you just go this route. Just scrape it all off. You'll see it come right off. Yes, you can do it right here on the counter. It's okay. You don't have to be neat and clean. If you're a neat and clean chef, I was always told that you're not a good chef. So it's okay to be messy. That means you're being creative. That means you're making some stuff happen. Okay, so carrots, I just cut them in half. These you want to get into little bite-sized pieces. So cut the carrot in half, and then I'll cut from there, cut the carrot into thirds. And then just little bite-sized pieces. This is again part of the marinara sauce, so you don't want great big chunks. I guess you could go with great big chunks, but that's not the effect or desired flavor combination patterns that I'm going for. Okay, so get it all cut up here. Make sure you have a good knife and make sure it's sharp. There's nothing worse than dealing with knives that aren't sharp or not a good quality. Hopefully they'll give us advertising out of this, but my knives are Hinkles. That's what I use. They're wonderful for me personally. My brother, who's an actual chef, may disagree, so if you want to know what are actual fantastic chef knives, check with him, not me. I'm a simpleton. So, almost got our carrot cut up, and then what we're going to do, let me get this last one here. So we get this all cut up. Just nice little pieces. I'll hold one up because I know the camera is a little far away. Sorry, I'm not a TV production center here, so I don't have, that luxury. But you're going for something about this small, okay? So now what we're gonna do, we have our olive oil, 2-3 tablespoons, something along there. For me, I say just a good drizzle that covers most of would help if I wasn't covering the hole that lets the air in, that lets the oil out. Can we see that there? Okay, so just, 2 or 3, come on, work. 2 or 3 tablespoons. I usually go for about medium. So we're gonna put it on medium, we're gonna let that heat up, and then we're gonna toss our onions, our garlic. There's the dogs, of course they're gonna interrupt. We're gonna take the onions, the garlic, the carrots, the squash. We're gonna toss this in here once it gets warmed up. And we are going to saute that stuff. And then we'll add in our onions, our seasoning, and our marinara sauce, or our wine. And then we're just going to let it sit. At that point, I will stop torturing you. I'll turn off the phone, and we'll let it marinate, and then I'll come back after it's done. One thing I did want to point out, which is kind of convenient that a lot of companies are doing now, I do like getting these, the diced tomatoes. You'll notice that it already has basil, garlic, and oregano in it. So whatever flavors you're adding to it, this is a nice base because it's already had it in it. The tomatoes have already been sitting in there, so the tomatoes already have all of those different flavors built into them, unlike just throwing it in and having to let the flavors get absorbed in. And guys, this is something your kids can help with. I know I don't have a kid sitting here with me right now, but over the years, my kids love being in the kitchen and helping out. Our youngest daughter, maybe we'll do one with her because I am not a baker. She is a baker. Onions, go. So let's turn this a little so that you can see here. Okay, so to know when the oil is ready, you can put a little drop of water in there, but then it splatters all over the place and you might burn yourself. So not recommended, especially if you're working with kids. So I know when it's ready, I'll just toss one of the pieces of onion in. Once that onion starts fizzling and crackling, that means it's hot enough and now I can toss everything else in. On a side note, I don't want to toss all this stuff in while it's not hot, because then all that's happening is it's just sitting in a big puddle of goop, and I don't know if it's good or bad, but it seems like it's just then absorbing all of the oil into the vegetables, and I want to cook them. I don't want to absorb them in it. Okay, so I think this one is fresh, brand new. Let me take the cap off. Nothing like trying to get your seasonings out of a bottle that hasn't had the protective seal removed yet. Sorry, they call it a fresh seal. Okay, so we're good there. So now we're just going to wait for this. Oh. So here, I'll show you what I mean by this so you can see if you're wondering. Not me, right there. Let me flip this around. Hold on. I don't know where it went, but okay. So something like that. Don't ask me why that didn't work. Okay, back to this very technological mode. Okay, so we're just going to toss all this stuff in here now. All together. You can hear it sizzling and cracking and cooking, doing its thing. Okay, so now you're putting the carrots, the onions, the garlic, and the squash. And we're just going to let it saute for, I don't know, 5, 6, 7 minutes. I know some of you probably want to know specific, like exactly how long you should do it. 5 minutes would probably be good. You're just letting it all cook down, get soft, because you're going to be putting in tomatoes and making the rest of the marinara with it. So we're just going to cook this and let it do its thing. Okay, so in order to be a good cook, what you do not do is leave the kitchen. You don't walk away from the stuff you're doing. Like, this is okay, I'm right here. I already opened these, but you know, maybe I still needed to open them. I don't. Okay, we're going to be guessing on the seasoning because I don't know where the, oh, I lied. So measuring cups for the seasoning, we'll get the wine open. Measuring spoons. My daughter just corrected me, these are not measuring cups. Never said I was smart. Okay, so we got our 1/4 cup out because this is going to be for our wine. So you're going to use a 1/4 cup of wine. Red wine, your choice, doesn't matter. So my guess is if it is sitting in your house and you purchased it, you already like it, so that wine would be just fine. Make sure that you stir up your vegetables that are sauteing. You don't want those to, don't forget about them, okay? Don't just start doing something and forget about them, and then all of a sudden you have a whole bunch of burnt carrots and you have to decide if you're going to use burnt carrots so your lasagna tastes burnt or if you're going to start all over. So just kind of pay attention to it. Doing its thing, okay? Like I said, glass for the, what we got here. So there's a serving for the dish, a serving for the chef. I think it's that way across the board, but if not, that's the way you should operate as a cook. I do want to note that sometime this week, my mom bought eggplants and said, hey, Here's some eggplants. You figure out what to do with them and make a meal, and I'll come over to your house and eat. So at this point, she's just buying certain things, and then I'm going to cook. So this week, for all of those of you who have eggplants sitting in your house and you're trying to figure out what to do with them, we will help you with that. Okay, those are pretty good. It's been about 5 minutes, I think. So what we're going to do now is we're going to dump in our 1/4 of a cup of red wine. And we will do a tablespoon of, in this case, Italian seasoning. If you're one of the, half a tablespoon. My daughter keeps correcting me because I'm not paying attention. So about a half a teaspoon. You can hear, so we can get in here, you can kind of see everything, the juices and what all is going on in here. So we're just going to kind of mix it up, let that red wine kind of get into some of the vegetables. For those of you who are not aware, when you cook with alcohol, once it starts boiling, you're boiling off the alcohol content, but the flavor of, like in this case, the wine does stay. So if that's a concern where you're thinking, well, I don't want to give my kid a meal that has wine in it, the alcohol is burned off as it's simmering, so you don't have to worry about that. It retains the flavor, but not the alcoholic content. So, good thing to know. Okay. All right, let's get back here. So now what we're going to do is we've got those in. We're going to let that cook off there, and then we're going to just dump our tomatoes in. Wooden spoon to get it a little better. Okay, so now we're just going to kind of stir all that goodness up, get it nice and mixed together. We'll go from there. We're going to toss in some pepper and some salt to taste. I would say start with the smallest end first. I believe that there was this inventor, Thomas Edison, and every time he was interviewing somebody to hire to be one of his interns, he would take them out to lunch. And if they put salt on their food before they even tasted it, he would not hire them because they were not even testing it to see if there was anything wrong with it first, and he felt that that would then impact their ability to be a good researcher. So, little salt to taste. I'm not going to tell you how much to put in. You know what your family's specifications are. Now what we're going to do is crank this heat up a little bit to medium-high. We are going to get it to a lively simmer, and then we're going to turn it down on low, and we're going to cover it, which I don't know where my lid's at. Wrong one. Let's see. Is this the right one? No? How is it that every household has like 7,000 lids and you can never find the one that you need at the moment? Ah, here we go. I think this is it. No? Aha. Okay. So we're going to bring this to a lively simmer. For those of you who are wondering what a lively simmer looks like, that's what a lively simmer looks like. Okay? It's not quite boiling. You don't want to scorch anything, so just a lively simmer. Give it one final swirl, because cooking is really actually all about the love you put into making it. Oh, down more, sorry. My daughter's letting me know I'm not a techno person. Okay, so one swirl there. We're going to turn it down to low. We're going to put a lid on. We're going to set our timer for 30 minutes. And now our marinara sauce is cooking. It's that simple. All right, I'm going to push stop now, and in 30 minutes we'll come back. I'm not going to sit here and make you watch me watch something for 30 minutes.